Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lesia and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think, and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Well, here we are for another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? And today on this show, we have Reverend Dale Olansky from CSL Palm Desert. Dale is a religious science practitioner. She has been one for many, many years, since 2008. And she recently graduated as a Minister of Religious Science in June of 2020. She's been the lead practitioner at the Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert since 2012, and she has an active practitioner practice and teaches classes on spirituality and leads virtual sacred circles for her spiritual community. She also has a book that she published in 2019 called Fear to Faith, A Daily Guide to Finding Solace in an Uncertain World, and she's getting ready to publish her second book, The Art of Being a Practitioner. Dale's passion is to empower people to see the spiritual nature of their being so they can live the full life of their dreams. Dale is also a professional inspirational speaker. Okay, so if you would like to unmute yourselves, I see you guys have done it already. Dale, the question that we start off with is, who do you think you are?
Well, I am the expression of God. I am God, as Dr. James Mellon has taught me so well. I think that I'm just somebody who's here to inspire others to really see their spiritual magnificence. That's kind of my thing. And although I didn't know that until about 20 years ago, I know that that's what my whole purpose here is in this world, to really see through what, all that garbage that people have been told that they are, and just pull that aside so that they can really see that light and love that they are, so they can just shake free from all that old thinking, all those old beliefs, and really be that true nature of life and love that is the spirit of who they are, and really give them the tools to do that. So that's who I think I am at this moment.
That's amazing. And I have to say, you say you didn't know that until about 20 years ago. I feel like I didn't know that for myself until about 4 years ago. And so for me, even though, my entire sort of lifetime has brought me to where I am in this moment, it really feels like until I stepped into the Science of Mind and Spirit teachings about 4 years ago, when we went into the Center for Spiritual Living Toronto, that's sort of when it feels like my life began. The teaching resonated so much with me right from the get-go. And I felt very inspired by the people we saw that day at the center. And I just remember seeing, and I've spoken about this before, about seeing Reverend Jonathan Zenz at the lectern talking about what he was talking about in the way he was expressing everything. And I just thought, that's what I want. That's how I want to live. That's what I want to do. That's how I want to be. And then what I remember of the first book that I read, which I think he was the one who recommended, if there's going to be a book you should read first, read The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. And that book, when I read it, even though I can't remember a whole bunch of it right now, but I know there are little nuggets that have stayed with me. That book felt like the answers to how to live and how to be. And I remember thinking back to when I was a teenager or an adult, in my 20s, and just thinking, oh, if there were only a book that I could turn to, if there were only some kind of, way of thinking that I could embrace, to can someone just please tell me how am I supposed to live? Because I just am having so much trouble figuring it out, but I knew enough to know that where I was and what was going on wasn't necessarily the way that I wanted things to be. I figured there's got to be a different way. So that book for me was kind of the door that, opened things up, and then going into classes, realizing and sort of hearing and just embracing the call to ministry, and then finding out I had to go through practitioner studies first. Okay, fine, stepping stone, but going through practitioner studies, I really, after going through that, I feel like it could be called something entirely different. So it doesn't have to sort of, the end goal doesn't need to seem like once I take this and go through these 2 years, I get a license and then I'm supposed to practice. I think it's just an extraordinary opportunity and journey and gift, and I like to call excavation of the soul into really discovering who you are. And I would just wish that for everyone to go through something like that, because it's so profound. It's so incredible to, learn about all the sort of factual stuff that we learned and the history that we learned, and then the skills and the techniques to be an effective practicing practitioner. But that first year, when you're really diving into, understanding who you are, what you're all about, how did life get to be this way, that was just wow. And so here's my first question then, because you actually have been the lead practitioner for many, many years at CSL Palm Desert, and you actually have taught practitioner studies, right?
Yes.
So being on, the teacher side of it, and the mentor and the person who's inspiring, through all of that teaching, what's it like for you to see people go from day one to 2 years later, everything that they have gone through? What's that like for you as a teacher?
It's probably one of the most exciting, joyful experiences for me. I love to watch people transform. And that's why I love being a practitioner, because I see it in my clients too. It's my joy. Honestly, it's probably one of the biggest heart joys to see people, because you don't know what to expect when you go into either working with a practitioner or practitioner training. You don't know what you're going to experience or what you're going to bump into. But to see people courageously say, you know what, I'm stepping in, I want to change, like what you had addressed. There's got to be more life experience, a different way of being in this world than what I'm used to. And for people to just say, I'm ready to try something different, and moving into this space of, and by the way, I love your soul excavator thing. I think that is so friggin' brilliant, because I think what we do is kind of like archaeology, if you think of it that way. We're going in and we're looking for the artifacts that need to be seen, so that we can, remove all that blockage and be whole in this world. But going back to what you asked me, yeah, to me, it's one of the greatest joys of my life to watch people become practitioners, and just to see that light turn on. It's just, I can't get enough of it. Honestly, I cannot get enough of it. I love it. Love it.
It's something down the road. I would love to teach practitioner studies, or something like practitioner studies, even if it's taking that year one and putting that into a slightly different sort of package. It just was such an amazing experience for me. And I know that it rippled out, into those closest to me, for example, Mr. Glenn Sheridan over here, and our daughter. And I mean, I would talk about stuff at work when I was, reading and studying and writing papers, which just seemed endless in year one. I mean, at any given time, we were reading between 3 and 5 books. And we were writing thought papers. We had a term paper. We were constantly being asked to write spiritual mind treatments for the first several months, so that we could get into the practice of sort of getting into that technique and knowing. I mean, I love the way I had the same teacher for practitioner studies as you had for ministerial studies, Dr. James Mellon from the Global Truth Center in Los Angeles. And for me, perfect teacher at the perfect time in the perfect way, because he was so unrelenting with, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. You have to have a solid foundation. And so there was even one time when he asked us to write a treatment, and we had to do it 3 weeks over, because he just said, you guys aren't going deep enough. You're not getting in there where you need to go, sort of thing. And so to have that practice and to just, here's the problem, this is the condition. What are the limiting beliefs supporting the condition? What's the intention for treatment? And then write the treatment. I realized a few months in, I was starting to apply that process to other things in my life. And And a really neat experience that I actually had personally was when I used to work for Unity Victoria here in Victoria, and there was a move that was happening. Where Unity had their offices for many, many, many years, the landlords were taking it over, and so Unity had to move out. And so there were a lot of mixed feelings from the congregation within the congregation, and one of the things that I remember asking at one point is, knowing a little bit about the history of Unity and the Fillmores and how they started out really by inviting their friends to their parlor on Thursday evenings to pray with intention together, then I just asked one day, is there any like formal prayer going on for this divine relocation, which is what it ended up being called? Like, are we setting an intention? Are we doing this together kind of thing? And so the answer was no, but yeah, why aren't we? And so what ended up happening was sort of my first very practical application experience with what I was learning in practitioner studies at the time. And that was to sort of, what's the condition? What are the supporting or the limiting beliefs that are kind of getting in the way of the spiritual truth? And then what's the intention for the treatment? And so I wrote out a treatment and gave it to the spiritual leader at the time. And while I was writing it, I first sort of wrote it as a science of mind treatment. And then I thought, oh, wait, but Unity, they have slightly different lingo, even though, there's, it's new thought and it's the same stuff. There's a slightly different languaging. So I started to reword it and rewrite it. And then I thought, you know what, this isn't working because it doesn't feel like it's flowing the way it wants to flow. So I brought it back to what it just felt like it wanted to be. And then I submitted it the next day to the spiritual leader, who thought it was amazing. We ran it by a few other people who were like, wow. And then it became a formal thing. And so I put it out in this like beautiful artistic, with a background, and then made copies for people to have. And then I wasn't there on Sunday when this happened, but Glenn was. And apparently what ended up happening was, for several Sundays in a row, there would come a time during the service where everybody would read this spiritual mind treatment together for, the perfect outcome. And then there were 2 times during the week where everybody was supposed to sort of, if you could, stop, drop, and pray, and just take 10 to 15 minutes and either, read the treatment or just sit there and know, perfect outcome. And that was such a cool experience. And it was also a perfect example of how there were desires and there were things that we knew that were in the treatment, yet the way things ended up unfolding was so different than anyone had imagined up until then. The way just, everybody opened themselves up to what could possibly happen and just let it go. And then even though there were places that we visited that were like, oh, we can see the potential here, this would be super great, in the end, it ended up being something totally different and is still more or less that way, except for COVID-19 stuff happening. And it was just super cool to kind of have this, self-imposed assignment and treat it like an assignment for class, and to have that sort of, technique and that process, that method, if you will, including those 5 steps, and then having an entire community come together with this, singularity of thought and intention. Yeah. I have goosebumps right now. Mahoney, you were there when this happened, and this was kind of your foray into Unity from CSL Victoria here. So do you maybe want to talk a little bit about either that or, just something that comes to mind from this experience?
Well, yeah, I remember it being quite impressive how everyone got involved with that, and it sort of just came out of your imagination and your desire to be of service and just to put your new tools into practice, which was really cool. We got all those colorful posters to stare at and focus upon. But as you're saying that, I'm thinking maybe this is why we're all on Zoom now, because it was so powerful that it changed how we're going to be gathering in service, because now this is the way we're communicating. And I think a lot of churches and spiritual communities are on some form of online internet service or whatever, and we're getting a little bit too used to it. I'm really looking forward to getting back to just being with other people, being in that energy. And I know you kind of you've been dipping your toes back into it, but I'm kind of curious if Dale is experiencing the same thing with like how much have you gotten used to communicating with people over Zoom or Facebook or Google or whatever, but how much does it also make you miss just being in a service with people, being with the music, being with the energy? Hugs seem to be available whenever you need one, kind of thing. And I've never been to the Palm Desert, so I don't know what the normal setup is, but that's what I want to know today, is what Dale has been going through during all of this post-COVID-y business.
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, it's been a call to action also, because as soon as things started shutting down here, I created virtual, what I call them sacred circles. I like to bring people together in community to really talk what's on their heart and do prayer work with them. So it's allowed me to kind of build that up a little bit. But I really do. I miss the service. I miss Sunday service. I miss my friends. And I used to be at the center a lot because I see clients there and I interact with our staff. And so I miss that camaraderie. And like you said, I feel the same way. I really miss being in people's energy. And I kind of underestimated that until now. Now I really realize I love to mix energetically with people, even though we can do it through Zoom as well. But being face to face with somebody in person is a whole other reality. So yeah, I've had my challenges with this, definitely. And there are moments where I just go, God, can this just be over already? But I use my spiritual work to kind of get me back in balance, and just to see, because I've never doubted for a moment there is just something magnificent and big spiritually coming through what we're experiencing right now. I do think there's a spiritual revolution that's happening beneath the surface of this. And I think we're all, like people like Lesia and myself and many others right now who have just stepped into bigger spiritual leadership. We're in tune with this, and we're knowing that basically we're being charged to create and allow something to be created by means of us for this new world that's coming through, where spirituality that's not denominational, that isn't religious, so to speak, something that's really spirituality from the heart that we teach in Science Mind, really ushering that in a new way where people will be able to get into it, because we've had such challenges getting people into new thought. We haven't found that golden key where more people say, oh wow, this does work for me, this resonates. And so I think people like Lesia, and all of us who are moving into this call, we are going to be the people to be able to communicate it in a way where people will be able to get it and be attracted to it, because I think there's a hunger right now for what we have. I'm seeing it, but there's been a languaging gap that I think we are now, we're bringing it together, because I think we're figuring out and we're downloading through spirit exactly how to be able to phrase things and bring people together so that they can grow their spirituality and tap into something that I know a lot of people it's been dormant, and it's time to awaken all of us. So that's kind of what I see unfolding here.
There are a few things that came to mind for me there. I mean, I think there are slightly different experiences among the three of us that we're having, because CSL Victoria is open for business in person. And I will be honest, I don't know how that actually was decided. It happened very quickly, and it happened in a really neat way, because we used to be at a different facility and had been at that facility for almost 3 decades. And then an opportunity presented itself for a move to occur, and that happened. So we are still renting. Now, however, we are actually in downtown Victoria, and it just, the area is a really super cool, happening, family-oriented hip, energetic, lots of stuff, like aliveness and vitality going on, even in the surrounding community. And the building that we actually rent, it has other stuff going on every single day. And so right now, I mean, there are still COVID-19 protocols in place. So not as many people can gather at the same time. And if there's more than one event happening, because there are only so many people allowed in the building at one time, that has an impact, you know, on each event. So anyway, but for me, when I went back to CSL Victoria on Sundays, because I had been working for 2.5 years, and most of that time I was working on Sundays. And then I made a conscious choice to, I knew that I was going to start to go back to CSL Victoria on Sundays anyway. However, I made a conscious choice to leave my job of 2.5 years about just over a month ago. And so going back to CSL on the first day that it reopened, and reopened at this new facility with slides and not paper programs, you know, feeling like, whoa, we're in the big leagues now. It was so exciting. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen the facility. I wasn't part of the move, but I was the one putting the slides together, and I was talking with Reverend Carrie almost every day. And I like to be involved anyway. Being with people in the same room, even 2 meters or 6 feet apart, was amazing. And for me, probably the biggest thing that I felt was doing an opening treatment in the room with people was incredible. Like, because for 2 years I'd been doing it online through class, and to be in the same room with people to do a treatment was just, I mean, that energy, I know intellectually, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Energy is energy. It's everywhere all the time, right here, right now, through time, space, and beyond, you know, no location, no time needed to like feel it and move it. However, being in the room with people and just the proximity, I don't know, somehow I still have that belief clearly that it's more palpable and just, you know, more tangible. So that was super exciting. For Unity, you guys are totally on Zoom. CSL Palm Desert though, do you still stream from the center? Because you guys have your own facility, right?
We do. What we do is we don't really, we record at the center our Sunday services. They are not live. So nothing's really live at all. We do our 10 a.m. things throughout the week. We're all Zooming. So we're at our homes. But yeah, we haven't started, you know, I love how like what James does. He's been live the whole time. He just doesn't have many people there. And we're thinking about maybe starting to do kind of like what Dr. James does, but maybe not having the band there, but having people live there and doing it a lot more of a live program.
Yeah, no, that's, I because I'm now at CSL 2 Sundays a month for sure, then I'm missing out on 2 Sundays with Global Truth Center LA, because that would be my usual sort of, you know, tune in on Sunday mornings. What was I going to say? The things that you were doing at 10 a.m. I have started tuning into your Sensational Six on Wednesday mornings, and I just love that. I mean, you guys as a package, these are your fellow ministerial graduates. There are 6 of you, hence Sensational Six. And I know one of them, Reverend Gail, because she is one of my prayer partners. Everyone, and then I know Reverend Lori because she was generous enough to give us her Emerson notes, which then kind of made their way, you know, through many, many, many students. And then really the only experience I have with the other 3 is through watching those videos that you guys did during your ministerial studies, and then your 10 talks that you did at the end, the week that was leading up to the culmination for everything. And the way that you guys work together as this incredible cohesive unit, the way you present that hour, it's just, to me, it is so engaging, so entertaining, so enlightening, so fun. And I love it, and I marvel at how you guys just work together so brilliantly. So, I mean, that's my experience on this end. What's it like for you getting together, from week to week and doing those things?
It's really fun. We meet every other week to do our planning sessions, and it's always just a fun time because we just let loose and we're sarcastic with each other, and it's just a joy. I mean, that's as much fun as doing the actual show. But it's been, we really didn't know what to expect when we started to do the Sensational Six, and when I'm a part of it, I'm in awe of what we've all become, and I always pay homage to Dr. James because he is as you know, he's a phenomenal teacher, and just knowing everybody where they started from and where we are now, it's mind blowing, and I see the brilliance that he's not really forceful, because to me, Dr. James says, and I told Dr. James this, he insists that you be who you are. He will not accept artificial or inauthenticity. You have to be who you are, period. And so that's what we do. We show up individually, and we're happy with that and joyful, because that's brilliance. And so it's neat for me to see, just like I'll hear William say something and it's like perfect given what's going on in the conversation. Everybody just knows what's right for them to say, and it all, what I kind of like what you're speaking to, it all just fits together beautifully given on our different viewpoints. And it's truly a divine experience from my end as well, because I kind of just go with what I'm feeling to say, and I kind of take a step back and just watch it unfold. So I think we're all just loving it as well, as much as our viewers are.
Yeah, and I have to say that little platform, something minute, HTML, something where when you go onto the website and then you click on and you see the video and there's a little chat box. I haven't encountered it up until that's my only experience so far, is with your broadcast, and all the little names, the automatic names they're given.
Oh, yeah.
As you sign on before you actually register. I registered now, so it's just my name. But friendly creature, friendly earthling, inquisitive, guest. It's so cute. Everyone has something different, and it just has this lightness and fun about it, which that's fantastic. So thank you for doing it that way too.
Oh, it was a group creation, and it's just, and we're not stopping. We have a following, and so we're going to keep going and enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it is amazing, and I look forward. And now I think I've been there 4 Wednesdays, and now it's part of my Wednesday morning. So
beautiful. You're gonna, if you can come this Wednesday, Dr. James is our guest.
Oh, so. Yeah, I thought it was last Wednesday, and I'm like, where is he? Where is he? And then I realized, no, it's the wrong.
Oh, yeah, they made a mistake on the
Okay, so let's take a little detour here and move to your book, the first book that you did, Fear to Faith, last year. So wait a second, because I printed out a couple of pages from some of the, I don't know what you call them, chapters, posts, but the beginning of the book starts with, this is it. On January 20th, 2017, a palpable wave of fear swept across America, casting a dark shadow over many dear souls in my life, including me. As a spiritual leader in my community, I knew I couldn't idly stand by. I had to do something to assuage the fear. I read that first sentence and thought, oh my God, what happened? And then it was like, oh, right, I know what happened. And because being in Canada, it wasn't
right.
the thing that came to mind.
Of course, yeah.
However, being in class for 2 years with Americans, except for just one person who was from Toronto, it was talked about almost every single class, and talk about sort of seeing a shift occur. It was really interesting to think back to what it was like at the beginning of our practitioner studies, and what opinions people had, and how they felt about the presidency and how things were unfolding in the United States compared to the growth and evolution and change in perspective, perception, by the end of those 2 years. I mean, still some very firmly rooted beliefs and very strong opinions, but seen, in a different way, delivered in a different way. So based on what happened here, in your book, it says you started a Facebook page and you just started posting things. And then ultimately, this is what turned into your book.
Yes.
So can you, my first question is, do you still have this going on after?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have it. I stopped posting. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you have so much other stuff on the go. I mean, there's just, this, and then there's this, but wait, there's more. You are a very, very busy, prolific, just being. I mean, giving, creating, all over the place, constantly. So what was the book experience like for you? Because you're writing the second one too, so.
Yeah, the second one's already written. Now it's just editing, really, because it was my thesis, so it's complete. But I need to go back over some of the notes that Dr. James put in the book and go over the editing of the punctuation and all that too. So it's coming. But writing the book was actually, it was something that was just so like just a demand of the universe on me, because I can't even believe I did it. I would wake up every morning, just take my shower and go to writing. And I just kind of meditated into whatever was to be written. And as I explained in the book, it started out just kind of very generic postings of inspiration. And then one day I thought, you know what, I'm going to write differently. I'm going to write about an experience I had and show the spiritual uplift and just see what comes. And I received so much feedback, positive feedback when I did that. And then I realized, okay, this is what this is about. It's not about just generic inspiration. It's about my life and what I'm walking through and how I'm seeing it and giving it an uplift. And people they just loved it. They love seeing how I'm walking through life. They see themselves in it. And so that's what this book really is about, all these different experiences I had. And it allowed me to drop so deep in myself and really to just be on the lookout for what spiritually is showing up for me. And so it was a spiritual practice every morning to just write it out. And it was posted by 7 a.m. So it was a joy to do that. And I didn't have any intention to write a book. I just was doing my post day in and day out until somebody about maybe 6 months in, who was part of the group, she had been in publishing for many, many decades. And she said, this is a book. She goes, you've got to make this into a book. So after it was about a year and a half in. And I also speak to this. My mom, my sister and I took care of my mom for 12 years after my dad passed, because she was a stroke survivor and needed constant care. So a lot of my time was going down to Los Angeles and helping out with that. But she had made her transition, and it was like, I just got this divine hit. It's time to publish. And so I reached out and got that going. And publishing was great. I published with the people who who published for Science of Mind magazine. And it's great to, have somebody who's spiritually enlightened working on your book to publish it. And it was just a dream. The artwork, the editor, it all just came together beautifully. And the book, I couldn't be more proud of the book. I didn't even realize it was going to look so beautiful and be so just inspiring. So it was quite a lot of it was very unexpected. I just kind of wanted to get a book out there, and it's like, wow, this turned out amazing, and it's like my baby. So it was lovely. It really was.
I don't have my copy of my book yet. Do you have a copy that you can just put up towards the screen and show it?
Yes. This is my book, Fear to Faith. Is it backwards?
No, it's good.
Good. You can get it on Amazon, and it's such a fun book. If you can see the inside every day, it's not done calendar wise, but it's done by every entry is a number. And there's 365 of them. And we had all this space under, because some of them are short and some of them are longer. And so the graphic person said, well, let's give people an opportunity to journal if they like. And so we have journaling possibilities for people at the bottom. But it's such a fun book. It's really, to me, this is my personality. You've got squiggles and cool font and just fun stuff going on inside of the book. And it's just, it really, a lot of people, they love it and they use it as their daily spiritual practice. And in some of my circles, people will read, they'll say, you know what, I just want to read your post for this day, Dale, because it touched my heart and it really brought me to a better place. And so it warms my heart that people are being spiritually reinforced by what I've written. So it's like, I feel like I've done my part here. So
You know what? I didn't realize how big it was when I saw it online. It looked like a small little, that's huge. That's
it's a big book.
So there's at the very beginning, what I found, it was number 2. It says, many years ago, during a conversation with a trusted friend, I mentioned that I didn't want to worry anymore. Her comment to me was, then don't.
Right?
It reminded me a little of a Wayne Dyer thing that I have in my head when someone came up to him at a conference eating some jujubes or something and said, I'm really having so much trouble. Like, I just can't stop eating these. And he took the bag away and threw it away in the garbage. And it was like, really? Is it that simple? And like, this kind of, brings to mind of, how simple the answer can be, but it's not always easy to get at that, on the other side of it. And so I thought that was very entertaining, and it made me laugh. And then the other thing that I thought, and I can't remember where this one is from because when I cut and pasted it, I left out the number, but there are so many things in our world that are composed of layers: onions, rocks, lasagna, and human beings, just to name a few.
And I forgot I even wrote that. That's so funny. Lasagna.
Yeah. So we are multi-layered organisms in all ways, physically, mentally, spiritually, energetically, and emotionally, with sauce and cheese in between, clearly.
Of course.
So I am looking forward to reading this when my copy arrives.
Yeah, it's coming.
Right. And I'm glad that there's a look inside feature on Amazon so that I could actually see, some of these little things. So this actually, you're talking spiritual practices. What are some of your spiritual practices that you engage in now?
Now every morning I just get up and I meditate and I do journaling work and I pray for people and for myself, and I read from a few different books, like a daily read. I read I think it's called Spiritual Diaries by Paramahansa Yogananda, and I read from the Science of Mind 365. That's to me just so pristine. And I just started reading the daily, it's like a daily read from Emmett Fox. Really wonderful. I don't know if you've read him very much. I think he was Divine Science.
I think I have that one.
You have.
Do you? Yeah, they're great. They're really great. So that's part of my practice. And I do yoga. I do Dr. James's, his spirit breath meditation. I do that. I just, I like to be mindfully practice spirituality in my everyday life. I really, and I spoke to this at our Sensational Six this week, that I don't like it just to be in my meditation room at 8 a.m. I like it to be throughout my day. So I'm mindful about seeing the spirit in everything when I'm driving my car, just to really bring that mindfulness in of the allness of life and the wholeness of life. So I practice it throughout the day as well, through awareness and mindfulness and acknowledgement. I just, because I love to be in the flow of that energy, and I want to call it in all the time. Just I love to be just drenched in it and really in it, because it just makes for a much easier and joyful life. So
drenched. I like that.
Drenched.
Immersed, infused, bathed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All of that. I really like what you said about how just your entire day, that it's not just, between 6 and 9 a.m. There are these things that, I check off my list and then I go about the rest of my day. One of my favorite books from our first year in practitioner studies is Care of the Soul by Thomas More. And it inadvertently led to Care of the Soil, which was the name for our study group that we had. But
really, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was just it was something.
I like that.
Someone was talking one day, and I'm like, "Hey guys, Care of the Soil," and it just became a thing. Anyway,
Wow.
But Thomas More, why I'm reminded of that is that there is a part in that book that talks about finding the sacred in everyday things, and just seeing as everything as a sacred experience, as a sacred action, as a sacred undertaking. And I remember when I was reading that, then, just hanging laundry, just all of a sudden it's like, okay, like being in the flow, in the hanging of the laundry. And and then other things. The laundry is the one that sticks in my mind though. However, yeah, I mean, not just, you know, journaling or meditating or the kind of meditation or lighting a candle or whatever it may be, but to actually be in that flow of the know, to be drenched in it all day long. I love that. Mahoney, how about you? Spiritual practices?
Well, mostly it's breathing and things like that.
Well,
Lesia has brought this up a few times, but I spend a lot of my day, because my work schedule allows me to listen while I'm working to audiobooks and YouTube and the odd novel and whatever. So, and podcasts, like I've been just downloading so much kind of good stuff. And I think what it is like, it's keeping me at a certain level of, okay, you got to walk the talk kind of thing. Like I know a lot of things about what I know in my heart, and I can explain most of the time why, you know, I know we create our reality, and whatever we focus on, that's what we're getting in a kind of loop. So mine isn't so much meditation and prayer as it is just like mindful and focusing and trying to do different things with my breathing to calm myself down, or to just extend my energy through my breath and that kind of thing. But one of the things that, as you're talking there, Dale, like the title of your book, like it is very evocative, and as you said, the framing of when it began, like that is also kind of a test, right? That is like an ongoing test of faith, as in, do you really know this stuff? Like, show me again why what you say is so, right? So like, I'm curious about that. Like, you know, it's now 2020, halfway through. There's another election coming up in the States, and there's a lot of buzz, even when you don't live in the States, about what, you know, there's a lot of sort of manifested evidence of, you know, this is going on. It just proves that, you know, like, so there's a lot of reinforcing one's biases and sort of patterns and this kind of thing. So do you feel that you've been able to up level yourself in terms of being more sure about, look, I know that we are like consciousness, this is my new saying, is consciousness first, you know, everything else comes from what we're feeling and putting out there. So do you feel that you're a little bit more solid on that? Like, because you've had roughly, say, 3.5, 4 years of that kind of like, well, the world is changing, you know? And of course, the more that we are as a global community focusing on fewer and fewer things, like a certain personality who has sort of taken all the headlines, and now it's a certain ailment or illness or focusing of energy. Like we're all doing that now. It's like I was saying this to Lesia last night, we're going within because we've sort of on a global level decided it's time to hit pause and just sort of look at ourselves and know what it is. You know, how do we feel? Who are we? And a lot of people are not comfortable with that, you know. And as you said, the New Thought community maybe has a little bit of a leg up or an edge there to say, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Like this is what we preach or whatever. This is what we believe, but we don't go out and preach it, right? We just like, oh, this is what's going on. So do you feel that you're better at that now, and you can kind of be less reactive to outside experience, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like I'm really grounded in it. When the COVID thing happened, and I just was kind of like, I guess I'm responding to what it was. I realized I was at a point of choice because there was so much fear that came up, and it was just such a thing. And I looked at it and I said, okay, this is the time to clean up your consciousness about this, because this might be around a while. So let's take care of this now, get solid in faith so we can walk through this really strong. And so I did my work. I said, I'm cleaning it up, go into that place of principle, grounding in, so I can just move forward with really strong faith. And I did it. And I've been unwavering in it, even, I do watch news because I like to know what's going on. And I'm unflinching. Because I just know. And part of it is because of my ministerial training, because training with somebody like Dr. James, who is so incredibly solid in principle and just keeps reiterating over and over again, everything is unfolding in its right and perfect way, no matter what. And I really, I felt that in every cell of my body whenever he would say that. So working with him and learning from him really anchored me intensely into that belief. So yeah, I just, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now in our government. It's been nonstop really, but there were some things that happened last night, and I read about, and I go, oh geez, I have my little, I don't want to say my human reaction, but maybe my more relative reaction to it. And then there's something that Ernest Holmes says in How to Use the Science of Mind. And when I read that years and years ago, it kind of really pulled me into something that I had been looking for as far as finding that sentence or that concept in Science of Mind. And basically, in a nutshell, he says that anything that's not grounded in the goodness of the universe, it can't be rooted, and it will be uprooted. Anything that's just not strong in that, it may have its day, but it will be gone because it's not rooted in that spiritual principle of goodness and love. And so what I see our country, what it's been going through, I'm so solid in that. And I've seen it in other places, not only in my life, but through history, that stuff can come up, but it gives way because it's not rooted in that harmony and that essence of spirit that we define as being the goodness and the wholeness. So that's where I plant my consciousness, and I just have that knowing that everything is it's unfolding beautifully, and there is that higher vibration that's going to be breaking all of this open so we can come together in our oneness, which is it's long overdue.
Cool. Woo. One other thing on that. I mean, I think what's going on right now in the States especially is reminding me that, everyone has a part to play, right? And I think certain things that are being decided, let's say at the Supreme Court level over the last month, two major things, like that, some of the things that are happening there are surprising, on many levels. The most recent one was the Oklahoma land issue, which is, for a person who follows Indigenous rights and First Nations here in Canada, as we call them, it's like, okay, we're definitely in a different, universe now. This is a different probable universe or reality that allows for things because they just are on a very deep level. So the land and the people, it was a certain way for many millennia, and then shifted rapidly, and we're on this kind of current timeline, but it seems to be jolting back to another version of of what it used to be, I guess. So I take heart with things like that happening, and I even the thing a month ago with the was around the employment rights, and it surprised a lot of people, I think, what happened. I won't get into specifics because we'd be talking forever, but for things like that, I just think it's okay that people do things who you wouldn't normally support them, but they end up doing something that just surprises you. Oh, I guess that kind of worked out, so I think there's always room for hope and sort of rooting yourself in, as you say, the principles. And it's like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know it's going to work out because everything's good, so without that being Lesia, without that being a spiritual bypass. Anyway, back to you guys. Sorry.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
There were a few things that I was thinking, many things over the last few minutes. And I think the thing that I landed on just in the last few seconds, because you used the word principle a few times, and the fact that precedent is being set. One of my favorite spiritual truths is principle is not bound by precedent. Which basically, for people out there who have not heard that and are not steeped in, science of mind or Thomas Troward, then it basically means that principle, which is the truth of who and what I am, remains unchanged no matter what's going on. So even if there was something horrific, volatile, heinous, so unsettling that happened in the past, that even if you drag the memory of that and still, are in relationship to it in the present, that event that happened in the past can never, ever, 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 ever change who you are at the very, 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 very heart of who you are, which is the absolute truth. What I'm thinking of, though, is almost like principle is the precedent. Because it's the foundation for everything. So even though there's precedent, in terms of experience and happenings, and I'm thinking, not that I'm a lawyer, but I play one in my mind. but that, Dr. James would even say, argue for the spiritual truth. That's what you're doing as a practitioner. That's what you're doing in your treatment. You're arguing for the truth. And you're setting a precedent. You're setting the precedent of truth. That's what you're coming from. And so it's almost like, just now I'm thinking, as much as I love that spiritual truth, that spiritual principle, and I have used it so many times, and people who are new to science of mind or new thought teachings, or just even if they're steeped in the teachings but need that reminder how it's been so great, I almost feel like, it could be reworked a little bit, because ultimately we're just, when we come from truth, when we come from that highest level of consciousness, when we're drenched in that knowing all the time, or even if we see ourselves wavering, we can bring ourselves back, to being completely aligned with and as that truth. There's nothing that could ever make us less than what we truly are. And so I find it fascinating, sometimes to the point of frustration maybe, or just sort of like, I don't get it when I hear how people are responding still to what is going on in the States, to the president himself, to things that he says, things that he does, to decisions that are made. I guess especially when I know people who are in the science of mind and spirit teachings, it just, I don't know if it's race consciousness that is so incredibly strong, and the pull of it is so incredibly profound and intense that it's just, really hard to not get pulled into it and get stuck in the muck or in the mud, or, whatever, mucky, dirty analogy you want to use. And it's interesting. And then I don't know, like, is it because I live in Canada, that there's a different perspective here, it's a different situation here. But then I think to myself, yeah, but then if it's, I'm Canadian, you're American, those are labels, and those are just ways that we can actually, you're there, I'm here kind of thing, like a duality, separation sets in. And then it's like, no, so it can't be that. It's not that, because we are all one. Yes, expressing in different, unique, individualized ways, but there's only one. And so where am I in this race consciousness? Where am I, like in what's going on? Where am I in these experiences that are unfolding? What's my part in all of this? And I have to say, right now, a lot of time I feel like I'm sitting back in bewilderment. That's what it is. In bewilderment, not quite understanding what I'm seeing, and so endeavoring to not only live in the question of what's going on, why is this happening, who am I, what's my part in here, and all of this, but also to know that at the very heart of it all is that highest level of consciousness, is that absolute truth, is that deepest sense of knowing that knows all. And then, like you said, ultimately, everything is unfolding perfectly. And sometimes for me, the reminder there, or the perfectly part is, and it's not that it has to feel great at the time. I mean, sometimes it really feels like life sucks, in the moment. However, that's part of this unfolding perfectly, because we think of when I think about, the circle, or, conscious mind, subjective mind, and form, thought, sort of the race consciousness, all beliefs and memories of all time, and then our life experiences showing up. This has to filter through this. And depending on what's in play here, like super strongly, it's going to make a difference what our life experience looks like. So choosing to, this is what I want to identify with, even if like I really feel like I'm gravitating towards this, to go, no, that's not what I want to identify with. I would rather latch onto this because it feels better, it's more supportive, it's more proactive, it's more productive, it's more creative, it's more expansive, it's more empowering. And so, and then my life shows up differently. Still, it's just example after example after example, conversation after conversation. It's just there all the time to have this experience and to really sort of unearth those limiting beliefs that we may not even realize are in play and are holding us down and back and rooted and whatever. Which then brings me to your comment about the Ernest Holmes quote of, how it'll have its day, that, it's there, but it can't get rooted, so it'll go away. That was a lot of stuff, but I really like that. I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, so it will be, in my mind's eye when I get there. Anyway, I don't even know if there's a question coming here. What do you, Reverend Dale, what do you offer to people when they come to you and they find themselves really caught up in the muck, feeling like I should know better? I should know better because, I embody these teachings. I should know better because I'm a practitioner. I should know better because I'm a minister. I should. Yet it's hard. It's hard because of whatever is going on, whether it's the political situation, whether it's, a diagnosis that has all of a sudden, made its way into your life experience. Someone has died, like something that can be really challenging for people to deal with. And even though they may have dealt with a whole bunch of other stuff that may seem even more, intense, there's all of a sudden something happens and it's like, I don't get it. I should know better. What's the problem here? What do you offer to people?
Well, when people do that, I steer them away from going into shame and punishing themselves or thinking lowly of themselves because something came into their life that they believe shouldn't have because of their consciousness. There's just so much we don't know about that's in that subconscious that you spoke to. It's not all transparent. It comes up as it comes up, and we have to deal with it as we deal with it. But for me, step one is just stop being ashamed of yourself, because this whole thing of spiritual perfection that I think people get into as practitioners and ministers, like if I become this, then nothing bad is ever going to happen to me, or nothing adverse will ever happen to me ever again because I'm so pristine in my consciousness. And the thing to me is that a practitioner and a minister, they're still who they are, but they have big tools to use to elevate their consciousness and to do their best to allow whatever needs to be seen that's hidden, that might be fearful, or that doesn't resonate or does not represent their divine nature. May that come through in a consciously aware way, so that it no longer is acting upon their life experience. But I like to encourage people just to always trust in principle, even though something has shown up, whether you're a practitioner or a minister, something has shown up. Okay, that's okay. We know that everything that is form is fluid and changeable, and let's go to principle. Let's do our spiritual work and watch watch whatever that condition is to dissolve and be released from your life experience. Because to judge ourselves because something has shown up that we don't understand, to judge ourselves just brings more harm to ourselves. And we need to step out of that and just go into principle and know that we can change any condition that comes up in our lives, anything, and to go there, anchor into that, and watch things change and transform.
And so it is.
So it is.
Which brings me to, I had the opportunity to read your thesis. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And this is what is turning into your second book.
Yes.
And so when we talk about being a practitioner, when we talk about spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, we talk a lot about technique. We talk a lot about the 5 steps that are involved, and how a lot of time is spent on steps 1 and 2. You know, that sort of there is only one universal intelligence, energy, God, whatever it is that you want to call it. There's only one thing going on. And then number 2 being, I am that thing, and so is everyone and everything else. And so there's just this eternal interconnectivity that is always in play. And everyone not only is that thing, they are that thing in its entirety, expressing in the way that they can only be expressed. And so technique and skill, that is something that comes up a lot. However, we also talk about infinite creativity. And so in your thesis, I really liked how you approached it was about practitioner as artist, the art of being a practitioner. And so there's a line in here who I love. We are artists who witness the flow of life through the many stories that are presented to us by those who see us. So talk to us about the artistry of being a practitioner, because yes, there's skill, yes, there's method, yes, there's steps, but they're really, because there is spontaneity involved, because there is creativity, and because this one incredible universal energy that is always in play is constantly creating, constantly expanding. How does this come into the artistry of being a practitioner?
Well, I think I think the whole, any kind of practitioner session is all about stepping into being an artist with it. And that's pretty much why I wrote this book, because you addressed it perfectly. We're taught to do all this rigid stuff. You do the 5 steps and say this like that and da-da-da-da. And that's important, because we want to get the form all settled in before we become creative. I mean, that's how most occupations are. You learn how to do it, and then you put your own flair in it. But for me, especially for the artistry of being a practitioner, there is a creative energy that is so needed in the work we do with people. And there isn't this step-by-step thing we do when we're listening to somebody. There isn't this card catalog where we say, okay, they're talking about that, so I go to that. I mean, with spiritual truth, you can say that, but there's something deeper that's going on there. And it's when whatever's being presented is being presented, to go to that higher wisdom. And Dr. James talks about this, where he talks about the different ways we're listening to people during our session, and to really open up in a big way to the creative information, or the guidance that you're getting from that higher wisdom within yourself, and to trust that, because it informs us on how to speak to the person, on what to say, because for each person there's a different way to communicate. And I talk about this vocabulary, because everybody's going to hear something based on their receptivity, based on their consciousness and their life experience. And so to allow that artistry to see that every session is an art piece. You know, I'm going to speak differently, possibly with this person. I'm going to be guided to say my prayer, maybe bringing in different words than I use for this person, allowing myself to maybe be more quiet with this person because there's more space needed for talking. It's all just a whole different experience. And that's why I felt it was so important to say, treat every session as a work of art, because every person is a work of art, so to speak. And so, like you said, to really open up in a really big way to the creativity, not the rigidity, but the creativity that's coming by means of you, through your energetic connection with this person, and what's coming in through you to say and to pray, to to move the energy as we speak. So that's why I really want people to get creative, because I know a lot of people because they're not taught to be creative with their treatments or with their sessions. They're taught to do this and you're done. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely something to be said for practice, 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 practice.
Yes.
However, I know that, by the end of our 2 years together in my practitioner studies, when Dr. James, our entire class, especially our second year, he taught it very differently than he had ever done before. And when he does it again, then I'm sure it's going to be, even different again. But we had the opportunity to, he really wanted people to get the energy part of it down. And so, he'd say, okay, you guys, what the 5 steps are, but you need to get into the energy. And so there were several classes where we would either do round robins of everybody, he started step 1 and then everybody 2, everybody 3, everybody 4, and then he'd finish it off. Or what was really cool was when he'd take smaller groups, or then when he'd take pairs and he'd say, okay, you guys, just step 2, just keep going until I tell you to stop, kind of thing. Or, you 2, step 3 until. And there was one class, so much fun and so exciting for me, because I was always online. This is before everybody had to jump online, but I was always online because I wasn't in Studio City. And so there was one other person that I was online with because she was from Toronto. Everybody else was in class. So he'd have people stand up and just, okay, go. And then the next and the next. And then he looked up at us online and he went, I'm not putting you 2 together because you treat very differently. And so Lesia, you're with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got to be with the teacher. And we did a step 3, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which was so fun, so expansive. And because I was with Dr. James, I just felt like I was up leveled, to the max kind of thing. And it was just this incredible, explosive, energetic, spontaneous, creative, step of treatment that just kept going until he finally went, okay, stop, and we were done. But it was so exciting to just be in the flow of that energy, and to even through the screen be not feeding off of, but just vibing in that and up leveling every single time. Talk about excitement and just, enthusiasm and zeal and just feeling aliveness, just pulsating and vibrating and activating, animating every single fiber of my being. It was incredible, such an amazing experience. And that's how I treat a lot of the time. I do treatments that are very quiet. The energy is still there, but that are very quiet and low key. But most of the time, I'm a very, animated treater, because I love treatment. It's just, it is such an effective tool when done correctly. And to do it correctly, how many times, in practitioner studies where we asked, what is the key ingredient? Ernest Holmes, feeling, Thomas Troward, faith. And, you can say all those steps, you can have them in the right order or mix them up. You can, even sort of know it in your heart of hearts, but without that feeling and that conviction and that passion, and allowing for that creative spontaneity to flow through, just from within. I do this, but from within. Yeah, artistry. Remind us, please, what is step 3? Step 3 is the declaration. So the steps are, again, for people who are not in science of mind, 1, we're just going to use God just for fun right now. So God is all there is. Step 2, I am God, and so is everyone and everything. Step 3, here's what I know. And so this is, basically the intention for the treatment. And there is 100% conviction. There is feeling, there is power, there is knowing that this is a done deal right here, right now, in the present moment. And the way Dr. James teaches, you never, ever, ever, ever ever bring the condition, the problem, the experience, the disease, whatever's going on into the treatment. Talk about it beforehand, but once you start treating, it's only from that highest level of consciousness. It's only about the truth at the very, very, very foundation of whatever's going on. So it's the truth of that person. It's the principle. And then step 4 is gratitude, just being so grateful because you know that it's already a done deal in universal mind, or a done deal, through and as God. And then step 5 is release, which is when we say, and so it is, you just let go. And the way that Reverend Gail says, and let God do its work. So yeah, and it's something that I'm looking forward to teaching in the fall through the Center for Spiritual Living here. And I treat every day, many, many times a day, because it is one of my absolute favorite big tools that I now have in my spiritual arsenal. And anyone can learn how to do it. And even in the how to use the science of mind, whatever I was reading yesterday, there was a little line that Ernest Holmes said, we should be teaching to. It's not just, for us to learn, but we want to go out and share this with the world and teach others how to do it for themselves. So that's why I also plan to, incorporate this into my 12-week mindfulness program in the fall with high school students, because it feels great. It really does. So I think we're coming on close to an hour here, and I'm thinking, is there anything else? Honey Bunch, is there anything else that you wanted to chat about before we go into our final segment?
No, I'm complete, as they say.
Perfect and whole too.
No. Although I do, when you use the word perfect there, I do have this thing that comes up. It's like, I still have an issue with perfectness. So the word optimal is what's good for me right now. It's like, it's sort of the best for the circumstances that we're in. It's the best available for growth and that kind of thing. So, because perfect for me is still a very inflexible word. So anyway, I don't want to fall down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, no. And you know what? That actually reminds me, when I was talking about unfolding perfectly before and it not feeling great, the perfect also means the way things unfold. So the creative process is perfection itself all the time. And so whatever, is being thought filters through all this stuff and then is reflected perfectly into your life experience. And so that's why it's really important to get at those beliefs that are in there and understand what is it that is influencing or qualifying, or, like, what are the other day when I did a talk, then I was talking about how, you put on a white suit, this crisp white suit, and then you walk through, a muddy swamp, and you come out and the suit appears brown. It still is white, but it appears brown because of all the mud and the muck in the swamp. Well, you could also have chosen to walk around the swamp. You could have chosen to walk through, the babbling brook that was clear, on the side of the swamp, and your suit would have, still appeared white. It's white, it's white, it's white all the time, no matter what. That's the principle. But it's those beliefs, and what you end up traveling through or clinging onto, that you filter that, initial thought through, that is going to affect what your life experience shows up like. So if you want to come out on the other side with that crisp white suit, then, how are you going to travel through that subconscious or subjective mind?
Brilliant.
Okay.
Oh, you look like you have a question. Come on.
No, I'm thinking I should get myself a white suit.
Oh, okay.
I look good.
I think perfection's a loaded word too. There's a lot of, for me, I was raised to be a perfectionist, and it did some pretty heavy damage to me until I, kind of got clear on what that was. But the word has a lot of stuff around it that we inherit. But what for me, I know I like to say I'm spiritually perfect, because I get that, and that works for me when we talk about perfection. I know I'm absolutely spiritually perfect, and that's all I need to know, and that allows me to resonate with perfection in a different way, rather than more of what our society says perfection is.
I like that. Okay, so let's see. I'm looking for my notes. I think I've gone through everything that I wanted to talk about. And then some. So right now we're going to go into our little fun segment before we finish off. And I just realized that I don't have a timer here, so I'm going to come right back with a timer. I shall return.
Okay, so you're going to be answering some questions.
Okay.
Sort of rapid fire fun. Most of them are, you know, either this or that. You're picking one or the other.
Oh, okay.
And some of them are.
Don't give it away.
Okay.
I'm having this. Like, did you guys do stand and deliver in practitioner training?
Oh my gosh.
See, I'm starting to is this stand and deliver, and I have to talk about what's the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning.
Right. Here we go on page 394.
Oh my God.
Define. Yeah, no, I still get a little bit of a in my gut when it's a stand and deliver like moment.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Oh my God, it's like PTSD.
But it was so good. It was so good too at the same time.
It was. It was actually a very rich part of class. I agree.
Okay, so Glenn is going to be asking the questions, and then we just would like you to answer. Sorry, I'm making noise here. Tiny quarters with my desk right up against the thing. So yeah, just spontaneity is key here. So don't think about them. Just allow for that intuitive flow to come through.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Ready, set, start.
Okay. Pick a number between 2 and 7.
7.
What is best, Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire or Ginger Rogers?
Gene Kelly, for sure.
Okay. Rainbows or moonbeams?
Rainbows.
How many tattoos do you have?
None.
O. Henry or Snickers?
Snickers.
Spiritual prototype or mental equivalent?
Mental equivalent.
Okay. Anime or claymation?
Anime.
Okay. Salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Favorite city to visit?
San Francisco.
Walking on a beach or in a forest?
Beach.
What is your favorite place to surf?
I don't.
Okay. Are you more wave or particle?
Wave.
Favorite character in a book?
Oh gosh.
Ding ding ding.
That takes too much reflection.
Yeah, no, and that is it. Your time is up. Okay. So 12 questions answered, Mahoney. What does Reverend Dale, what can she imagine that she's won?
Okay, so this is from our favorite right here.
Move it down. There you go. It's our favorite Indian restaurant in the little town not far from where we live. So tell Reverend Dale what her imaginary meal prize is.
You picked page 7, so we have 7 panels here.
Oh, how interesting.
And
12 questions answered.
12?
That's so
okay.
Cool.
Then you're in the beverages and desserts section, so you get...
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because otherwise 6 panels is the food, and then this is the desserts. So how many did you answer?
She answered 12, but you know what? Use 7. Use 7
okay.
And then tell her what her appetizer, what her main meal, and what her dessert is going to be.
I like to have a full course.
Oh, wow. Whether you like it or not, you've got mango beef.
I'm a vegetarian,
is the specialty.
That was one of the questions that you were going to ask her.
I didn't get that far. Okay.
Go into vegetarian.
And if you're vegetarian, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Chana masala, chickpeas.
Oh, yum. Okay.
Okay. And the you get for dessert fruit kulfi or Oreo kulfi, which is a frozen milk ice cream.
Oh, that's
Oreo?
Yeah, ice cream. Anything ice cream is fine.
Okay.
And Oreos.
I didn't even know they had Oreo kulfi. Okay.
And was there an appetizer?
No, I just went with the
No, but give Dale an appetizer.
I need an appetizer here.
So you need, what's the number on the appetizer? 1, 2. Would you like paneer pakora? Which is cottage cheese fingers deep fried with Indian spice batter.
Those are so good.
Sounds good.
I cannot tell you. And you can either get like a tamarind sauce or a mint chutney like a mint cilantro chutney to dip into. They're so good. It really depends on what night you go there as to, whether they're heavier or lighter. But oh my gosh, it's such a delicious appetizer.
Yum.
Congratulations on winning
Thank you.
meal. You can imagine how wonderful it is.
I love Indian food.
Vegetarian. Look at that. I'm vegetarian too. We're raising our daughter vegetarian. Glenn is at home, although when he goes out, he will have some chicken or turkey every now and then. But yeah, and that was, that wasn't even a conversation that happened with us when we moved in together. He just moved into a vegetarian household and just embraced that lifestyle. And
the irony is now we have a cat and she can eat whatever she wants.
Yeah, see, my cats get, because they need that. That's what they need. They don't do vegetarian.
You know what though, I have to say, I mean, the food that we get for her, it smells, I joke with Glenn and Milana, not really, but joke, let's say, when they eat canned tuna, like to me, I'm like, oh my God, that smells like cat food. Now, since Mercury came into our lives, though, when I open up her little cans of food, even though about half of them are meat, the other ones are fish, they're saucy and chunky. They look like this little stew. They don't smell anything like canned tuna, and they actually look very delicious. And that is the only meat that is in our household. But she gets these beautiful little gravy, stewy-like meals that she laps up, and then she avails herself of the outdoor buffet of, birds and mice and other things. So yeah, I'm so proud of her all the time because she has a little jingle bell on her so that we can hear her when she's in the house, and she still manages to sneak up on her prey and catch all of these things and bring them to us, let us see them, and then, yay, good for you, and then she bows down. So
that's so funny. Wow.
Anyway, okay, so Reverend Dale, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And I'm going to set the intention because I in the late 90s, mid 90s, I went up to Victoria and Quebec, and I'm going to set the intention that in the very near future, I'm going to come visit you too, because I would love I'd love to see you. I'd love to hang out in Victoria with you and just kind of be in Canada for a little bit just to visit. So I'm knowing that.
Open arms, right? Welcome. We have a spare room and and vegetarian. So
right. Thank you. I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing both of you in person, and perhaps I'll be there on a Sunday and I can go to your center as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
I just would like to let anyone know, if you would like to get in touch with Reverend Dale, then her website is www.daleolansky.com. If you would like to email her directly, then her email address is dolansky@dc.rr.com, which is dolansky@dc.rr.com. And again, if you want to show your book, Reverend Dale has one book already published, From Fear to Faith, which is available on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. And then her second book is going to be published soon.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. And then if you ever also want to tune in to any CSL Palm Desert stuff, Reverend Dale, what is the website there?
It's www.centerforspirituallivingpalmdesert.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, my Wednesday morning has your Sensational 6 at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is streamed live. That's part of my Wednesday morning now. It is so enlightening, so entertaining, so engaging. And if you have an opportunity to check it out, then I would say go for it, because it really is a lovely, lovely part of my morning and has me thinking, for the rest of the day and in the coming days. So thank you for being so awesome. Thank you for doing all you do, being who you are. And I look forward to you visiting here, to our next conversation, whenever that may be, and to everything that comes next. So
yes.
That's it for now.
Thank you. It was great.
Okay.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lesia Cahoot, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping us make this podcast a reality. Video editing, Lori Savage, Lesia Cahoot. Music, Vasco Lourenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, sakkmesterke, copyright 123rf.com. Graphic design, Lesia Cahoot. For more information on this podcast and our Lesia Cahoot Soul Excavator, please visit www.lesiacahoot.com. Thank you for listening to Who Do You Think You Are?